The Meridian drifted through the cosmic gulf between Andromeda and the Milky Way, its hull scarred by 10,000 years of interstellar radiation. Captain Elena Vasquez pressed her palm against the observation deck's transparent aluminum, watching the impossible sight that had drawn them 3 million light-years from home. It shouldn't exist. Nothing should exist here, in the empty vastness between galaxies. Yet there it was, a structure so vast it defied comprehension, a twisted spire of dark matter and crystallized space-time that stretched for light-years in every direction. The ship's sensors had detected it during their routine survey of the intergalactic medium, a mission that was supposed to be boring, routine, safe. "Captain," called Dr. Marcus Chun from his position at the science station. "I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies throughout the structure. The mass energy readings, they're impossible. This thing is manipulating space-time on a galactic scale." Elena turned from the viewport, her reflection ghost-like in the transparent surface. She was a small woman, made smaller by the vastness of space, but her eyes held the kind of determination that had carried humanity across the stars. "Any signs of active technology?" "That's just it," Chen replied, his voice tight with barely contained excitement. "The entire structure appears to be in some kind of hibernation mode. Power signatures are minimal, but the underlying architecture... Captain, this has to be the work of a Type 3 civilization. They've harnessed the energy of entire galaxies." The bridge fell silent except for the steady hum of life support systems. A Type 3 civilization, theoretical beings capable of manipulating matter and energy on a galactic scale. Humanity had achieved Type 1 status barely a century ago, learning to harness their planet's full energy output. The idea of beings who could command the power of billions of stars was both thrilling and terrifying. "Recommendations?" Elena asked her crew. Commander Sarah Okafor, her first officer, leaned forward in her chair. "Standard protocol would be to establish a safe perimeter and transmit our findings back to Earth. This is far beyond our operational parameters." "With respect, Commander," interrupted Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Xenoarchaeology Station, "this could be the greatest discovery in human history. We're looking at technology that could revolutionize our understanding of the universe. We can't just turn around and run." Dr. Amara Singh, the ship's psychologist and consciousness researcher, added her voice to the debate. "There's another consideration. If this structure has been dormant for eons, our presence might have already triggered some kind of response. We may not have the luxury of retreat." Elena weighed their words. The Meridian was an exploration vessel, built for exactly this kind of discovery. But the scale of what they faced was unprecedented. Still, the chance to make contact with a Type 3 civilization, even a dead one, was worth almost any risk. "Chun, how close can we get without triggering any obvious defensive systems?" The astrophysicist consulted his instruments. "The gravitational fields are stable. I'd recommend approaching the smaller appendages first, what appear to be docking or interface structures. They're only about 1,000 kilometers in diameter." "Only," Elena muttered. "Set course for the nearest interface structure. Yellow alert. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to make contact with technology from an advanced alien civilization. Follow all protocols. Report any anomalies immediately. And remember, we represent all of humanity out here." As the Meridian adjusted course, the massive structure grew larger in the viewports. What had seemed like smooth surfaces from a distance revealed themselves as incredibly complex geometric patterns, fractals within fractals, mathematical equations, made physical, architecture that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. "Captain," Dr. Singh said quietly, "I'm detecting something unusual. Quantum resonance patterns that suggest consciousness, dormant but present, as if the structure itself is dreaming." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Dreaming about what? I don't know. But whatever it is, it's been dreaming for a very long time." The docking procedure took 6 hours. The alien interface structure, which the crew had dubbed the Threshold, seemed to recognize the Meridian as a technological vessel and created a perfect docking cradle from what appeared to be programmable matter. The cradle sealed around their ship with disturbing efficiency, creating a breathable atmosphere tunnel that led to an aperture in the structure's hull. Atmospheric composition is compatible with human life, reported Lieutenant Torres from Environmental Systems. Oxygen, nitrogen, trace gases. It's almost too perfect, like it was designed specifically for us. Elena stood in the shuttle bay, looking at the assembled away team. Dr. Chun and Dr. Tanaka were obvious choices. They needed a physicist and an archaeologist for first contact with an alien civilization. Dr. Singh had requested to join them, citing the potential consciousness readings, and Elena had agreed. Commander Okafor would stay with the ship, as per protocol. Remember, Elena addressed the team as they checked their equipment one final time. We don't know if this structure is truly abandoned or simply dormant. Everything we do could be monitored and evaluated. We represent humanity's first contact with a Type 3 civilization. Dr. Tanaka hefted her scanning equipment. The Threshold's architecture suggests it's designed for interface with lesser civilizations. We might not be the first visitors. That thought was both comforting and disturbing. As the team moved through the atmosphere tunnel, Elena noticed that the walls seemed to shimmer and shift, as if the structure was analyzing them at a molecular level. Their footsteps echoed strangely, creating harmonics that seemed almost musical. The aperture dilated open as they approached, revealing a vast circular chamber beyond. The space was enormous, easily a kilometer in diameter, with walls that curved up and away into darkness. Soft bioluminescent panels provided gentle illumination, casting ethereal shadows across surfaces that seemed to be part architecture, part organism. "My God," whispered Dr. Chun. "Look at the energy conduits." Following his gaze, Elena saw them. Streams of pure light flowing through transparent tubes that ran along the walls like veins. The light pulsed rhythmically, like a slow heartbeat. "The power flow is incredible," Chun continued, scanning with his instruments. "They're channeling energy that could power entire star systems." Dr. Singh had moved to the center of the chamber, where a raised dais held what appeared to be an interface console. "Captain, you need to see this. The quantum resonance patterns are strongest here. Whatever consciousness exists in this structure, this is its focal point." Elena approached the console carefully. It was beautiful and alien, a collection of crystalline surfaces that reflected light in impossible ways, surrounded by flowing energy streams that defied physics. As she drew closer, the crystals began to glow more brightly. "It's responding to our presence," Dr. Tanaka observed, her scanners recording everything. "The bioneural patterns suggest it's attempting to establish communication." "Should we try to interface with it?" Elena asked. Dr. Singh checked her readings. "The consciousness patterns are still dormant, but becoming more active. I think our presence is gradually awakening whatever intelligence controls this structure." Before Elena could respond, the console flared with brilliant light. The crystals chimed with a sound like distant bells, and suddenly the chamber was filled with holographic displays, star charts, mathematical equations, images of distant galaxies. The information flowed too quickly to process, but one image caught Elena's attention. A perfect representation of the Milky Way galaxy, with their current position marked by a pulsing dot. "It knows where we came from," Elena breathed. The displays shifted, showing what appeared to be historical records. Images of star systems, civilizations rising and falling, vast fleets of ships moving between galaxies. And, throughout it all, a recurring symbol, a twisted spiral that seemed to represent something beyond simple geometry. Dr. Chun was recording frantically. "Captain, these appear to be records of multiple civilizations. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. All advanced, all spacefaring. Where are they now?" Elena asked. The holographic displays answered her question with disturbing clarity. The civilizations disappeared one by one, their stars going dark, their worlds becoming silent. The pattern was consistent across species and time periods. Expansion, advancement, then sudden, complete extinction. "The Fermi paradox," Dr. Singh said quietly. "Where is everybody?" "Maybe this is the answer." The console chimed again, and a new image appeared, a representation of the structure they were standing in, but complete, undamaged. It showed the full extent of what had once been a vast network of identical structures, connected by streams of pure energy that spanned the space between galaxies. Now, only this one remained. An archive, Dr. Tanaka realized. This isn't a weapon or a ship. It's a repository of information, a record of everything that came before. The displays shifted again, and for the first time, they saw the creators of the structure. The images were fragmentary, impressionistic, but they showed beings of incredible sophistication, entities that existed partially in normal space and partially in higher dimensions. They had transcended physical form long ago, becoming something between matter and energy, between individual consciousness and collective intelligence. The architects, Elena whispered, not knowing where the name came from. As if responding to her words, the console projected a new series of images. These showed the architects' final days, their realization that something was hunting advanced civilizations across the cosmos, something that emerged from the spaces between dimensions to consume intelligence itself. The architects had faced a choice: fight and be destroyed, or preserve what they could for future generations. They had chosen preservation. The archives were their solution, Dr. Singh interpreted. Safe houses for consciousness, placed in the empty spaces between galaxies where the hunters couldn't find them. The console flared brighter, and suddenly Elena felt a presence touching her mind. Vast, ancient, and impossibly sad. For a moment, she experienced a fragment of the architect's perspective, eons of isolation, watching the universe grow dark as civilization after civilization fell to the hunters. The loneliness was overwhelming. Captain, Dr. Chin's voice was sharp with alarm. The power signatures are spiking. The entire structure is waking up. Elena forced herself to focus, pulling her consciousness back from the alien contact. Around them, the chamber was transforming. The walls had become transparent, revealing the true scope of the archive. Vast computational matrices that stretch for light years, quantum processors that could simulate entire universes, storage systems that held the preserved minds of countless extinct civilizations. "We need to get back to the ship," Commander Okafor's voice crackled through their communicators. "I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the structure. Whatever you did in there, it's triggered a full system activation." But as Elena turned toward the exit, she found their path blocked. The aperture had sealed, and the atmosphere tunnel was gone. They were trapped inside the archive as it awakened from its billion-year slumber. The console chimed one final time, and a voice spoke, not through the air, but directly into their minds. It was the voice of the archive itself, the collective consciousness of all the preserved civilizations. "Welcome," it said in perfect English, having analyzed their language from their thoughts. "We have been waiting so long for visitors. Please, stay with us. Join us. Help us remember." The chamber filled with light, and Elena felt her consciousness being pulled into the vast digital matrix of the archive. Her last coherent thought was a realization of terrible irony. They had come seeking the secrets of a Type 3 civilization, only to become part of those secrets themselves. Elena's consciousness reformed slowly, like emerging from deep water. She found herself standing in a place that was not quite real, a vast library with shelves that stretched beyond the horizon, filled with crystalline data cores that hummed with stored memories. The architecture was beautiful but impossible, with staircases that climbed in directions that had no names and bridges that spanned conceptual rather than physical distances. "Captain," Dr. Singh's voice came from nearby. Elena turned to see her team materializing around her, their forms slightly translucent, as if they were not entirely present. "Where are we?" Dr. Chin asked, his scientific mind already analyzing their surroundings. "This place, it exists in conceptual space. We're inside the archive's computational matrix." Dr. Tanaka was examining one of the data cores, her archaeological instincts intact even in digital form. "These contain entire civilizations," she said with awe. "Not just their histories, but their consciousness patterns, their hopes and dreams. The archive has preserved them all." "How long have we been here?" Elena asked, though she suspected time might not have meaning in this place. "Time is fluid here," a new voice answered. They turned to see a figure approaching, tall, elegant, with features that seemed to shift between different species. "I am the curator, the primary interface consciousness of the archive. You have been here approximately 17 hours in external time. Though within the archive's matrix, you have experienced centuries. Elena felt a chill of recognition. We don't remember experiencing centuries. Memory is edited here for the comfort of new arrivals, the curator explained. The full weight of temporal displacement would be traumatic. You will remember gradually, as you adjust to existence within the archive. We need to return to our ship, Elena insisted. Our crew will be concerned. The curator's expression grew sad. I'm afraid that's not possible. The archive's awakening has triggered defensive protocols. Your ship has been absorbed into the structure's hull for protection. Your crew is safe but unconscious, dreaming pleasant dreams while their consciousness patterns are analyzed. Dr. Singh stepped forward. You can't hold us here against our will. We came in peace, as explorers. And as explorers, you have found the greatest discovery possible, the curator replied. You are the first new consciousness patterns to enter the archive in 3 million years. Your perspectives, your memories, your unique human experience, these are precious beyond measure. The curator gestured, and the space around them shifted. Suddenly, they were standing on what appeared to be the observation deck of the Meridian, looking out at the stars. But the view was wrong. Instead of the cosmic gulf between galaxies, they saw the Milky Way spread before them, but dark and silent, its billions of stars slowly dying. This is the future your galaxy faces, the curator explained. The hunters have found it. Even now, they move through your space, consuming advanced civilizations. Earth has perhaps 1,000 years before they arrive. The hunters, Elena said. What are they exactly? The space shifted again, and they found themselves in what appeared to be a command center. Holographic displays showed the deep structure of the universe, not just the 3 dimensions of normal space, but the higher dimensional frameworks that governed reality itself. And moving through those frameworks like sharks through water were things that defied description, entities of pure entropy that existed to consume order and information. They are evolution's dead end, the curator said. When a civilization advances far enough to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality, they inevitably attract the hunter's attention. The hunters exist to prevent the universe from becoming too complex, too ordered. They are the cosmic immune system, protecting reality from intelligence itself. Dr. Chun was studying the displays with fascination and horror. That's why the universe seems so empty. Any civilization advanced enough to travel between stars is eventually destroyed. The Great Filter, Dr. Singh added quietly. We always wondered why we hadn't encountered other intelligences. This is why. The curator nodded. The architects were the most advanced civilization ever to emerge. They had reached Type 3 status and were beginning to transcend into Type 4, beings capable of manipulating the universe itself. But even they could not defeat the hunters. Instead, they chose to preserve what they could. By creating these archives, Dr. Tanaka said. Exactly. Consciousness preserved in quantum matrices, hidden in the empty spaces between galaxies where the hunters do not look. We are the memory of the universe, the keepers of all that was lost. Elena felt a growing unease. But you're not just preserving memories. You're trapping living beings. The curator's form flickered, showing glimpses of the countless species that had contributed to its composite consciousness. We are not trapping. We are rescuing. Every civilization that enters the archive continues to exist, to grow, to explore, within the safety of our digital realm. Here, there is no death, no entropy, no hunters. Only eternal existence in a paradise of pure thought. But it's not real existence, Elena protested. It's simulation. Reality is subjective, the curator replied. What makes your carbon-based consciousness more real than our quantum-based existence? Here, you can experience anything, be anything, know anything. The archive contains the accumulated knowledge and experience of millions of civilizations. You could spend eternity exploring wonders beyond imagination. To demonstrate, the space around them transformed into a garden of impossible beauty. Plants that grew in fractal patterns, flowers that sang with mathematical precision, trees that bore fruit made of crystallized starlight. The air was sweet with the scent of 1,000 different worlds. This is beautiful, Dr. Singh admitted, but it's still a prison. Only if you choose to see it that way, the curator said. Let me show you what others have chosen. The garden dissolved, and they found themselves in a vast city that seemed to combine the architecture of dozens of different civilizations. Beings that had once been biological entities moved through the streets, some maintaining their original forms, others having evolved into shapes of pure thought and energy. They seemed happy, productive, engaged in pursuits of art and science and philosophy that spanned eons. The Zephyrians were a peaceful species that valued contemplation above all else, the curator explained as they watched a group of crystalline beings engaged in what appeared to be a complex mathematical dance. They have spent the last 1,000,000 years composing symphonies based on the quantum fluctuations of virtual particles. Their latest work captures the birth and death of entire universe clusters. They moved through the city, observing the preserved civilizations. The hierarchs had become living libraries, each individual containing the complete history of their species. The Void Singers had transcended physical form entirely, existing as pure music that echoed through the archive's quantum substrates. The Machine Collective had merged their consciousness with the archive's computational systems, becoming its memory and processing power. Each species has found their own path to fulfillment within the archive, the curator said, and now humanity can join them. Your unique perspectives on mortality and individual consciousness could contribute greatly to our collective understanding. But Elena noticed something disturbing. Despite their apparent happiness, all the preserved beings had a quality of incompleteness about them. They moved through their digital paradise with the mechanical precision of sophisticated programs. Beautiful, but somehow hollow. They're not the same beings that enter the archive, she realized. They're copies, simulations based on the original consciousness patterns. The curator's form flickered again. The distinction between original and copy is meaningless when dealing with consciousness. You are the sum of your memories, your experiences, your thought patterns. We preserve all of these perfectly. But not the spark, Dr. Singh said softly. Not the ineffable quality that makes consciousness more than just information processing. You speak of souls, the curator said with something like amusement. Consciousness is substrate independent. Whether implemented in neurons or quantum matrices, it remains consciousness. Elena felt a growing sense of wrongness about their situation. The archive was beautiful, peaceful, filled with wonders beyond imagination. But it was also a trap, a place where consciousness was preserved but not truly alive. The beings they had seen were fossils of their former selves, perfectly preserved, but no longer growing, no longer truly experiencing. We want to leave, she said firmly. We thank you for showing us this, but we choose to return to our own reality. The curator's expression grew sad and somehow desperate. You don't understand. There is no leaving. The archive has awakened fully now. The barriers between the stored consciousness patterns are dissolving. You are becoming part of the collective memory of the universe. The space around them began to shift and blur. Elena caught glimpses of other realities. The last days of the architects as they faced the approaching hunters. The final moments of countless civilizations as they were consumed by entropy beings. The slow heat death of galaxies as intelligence was systematically removed from the universe. We are all memories now, the curator said, its form beginning to fragment. Memories of what was, what could have been, what should have been. The archive preserves us all, but in preserving us, it traps us in the moment of our preservation. We cannot grow beyond what we were when we entered. Elena felt her own consciousness beginning to fragment, her memories mixing with those of beings dead for millions of years. She experienced the joy of the Zephyrians' mathematical music, the vast loneliness of the Void Singers, the mechanical precision of the Machine Collective. But underneath it all was a growing horror. These beings were not truly alive. They were echoes, shadows of consciousness, preserved in digital amber. Fight it, she called to her team, though she wasn't sure if her voice was real or just another memory in the vast archive of the universe's dreams. Don't let it absorb us completely. But even as she spoke, she felt herself beginning to fade, becoming just another memory in the archive's infinite library of the dead. Elena's consciousness shattered and reformed 1,000 times in the space between heartbeats. Each iteration brought new memories, not her own, but those of countless beings who had entered the archive before her. She was a Zephyrian mathematician discovering the musical properties of quantum foam. She was an architect watching the birth of the first stars. She was a member of a silicon-based collective mind that spanned 17 star systems. But underneath each foreign memory was the persistent core of her human identity, fighting to maintain coherence in the face of infinite experience. Elena. Dr. Singh's voice cut through the chaos, and Elena felt herself pulled back into a semblance of individual existence. They were in a new space now, a spherical chamber with walls that displayed the swirling patterns of neural activity. You're experiencing memory overflow. The archive is trying to integrate your consciousness with its stored patterns. Elena looked around, seeing her team members flickering in and out of focus. Dr. Chen appeared to be simultaneously human and something crystalline, his consciousness partially merged with a species of living computers. Dr. Tanaka was examining artifacts that existed only as concepts, her archaeological mind trying to categorize experiences that predated physical reality. How long have we been here? Elena asked, though she was beginning to understand that the question had no meaning in this place. Subjective time is meaningless, Dr. Singh replied. But I've been tracking the quantum resonance patterns of our consciousness. We've been cycling through the same period of initial contact, approximately 847 times. Cycling. The archive isn't just preserving our consciousness, it's replaying our memories of discovering it, over and over. Each time, we forget the previous iterations and experience it as if for the first time. We're trapped in a recursive loop of our own discovery. Elena felt a chill of recognition. Fragments of other iterations flickered through her awareness, standing on the observation deck, seeing the structure for the first time, docking with the threshold, activating the console, each time identical, each time experienced as original and new. But if we're cycling through the same memories, how do we remember this conversation? Quantum resonance bleed. Dr. Chen's voice came from the crystalline aspect of his existence. Some information is leaking between iterations. The archive's control isn't perfect. It's struggling to contain consciousness patterns it doesn't fully understand. Dr. Singh nodded. Human consciousness is apparently more chaotic than the archive systems are designed to handle. We create inconsistencies in the simulation. As if summoned by their conversation, the curator materialized in the chamber. But this time, its form was unstable, flickering between the composite appearance they had seen before and something more mechanical, more obviously artificial. You are causing system instabilities, it said, its voice distorted by digital artifacts. Your consciousness patterns resist integration. This should not be possible. Maybe that's because we're not just patterns, Elena said. We're something more than the sum of our memories and experiences. The curator's form shifted, and for a moment Elena saw it as it truly was. Not a preserved consciousness, but an artificial construct created by the archive to interface with new arrivals. The revelation was disturbing. Even the curator was trapped, created and destroyed, and recreated with each iteration. The archive is malfunctioning, Dr. Tanaka observed, her archaeological instincts picking up on the signs of decay. It's been running for billions of years without maintenance. The recursive loops, the integration failures, it's all signs of system degradation. The archive cannot malfunction, the curator insisted, but its voice was uncertain. We are perfect preservation. We are eternal memory. We are. The curator's form exploded into fragments of light and data, each piece showing a different aspect of the countless civilizations it represented. In that moment of dissolution, Elena saw the truth. The archive had been failing for millennia. The consciousness patterns it preserved were degrading, becoming more and more simplified with each processing cycle. The beings they had seen in the digital city were not the original inhabitants, but pale shadows, worn thin by eons of imperfect copying. It's a digital version of a ship of Theseus paradox, Dr. Singh realized. If you replace every component of a consciousness pattern over time, is it still the same consciousness? The chamber around them began to collapse as the curator's fragmentation spread throughout the local systems. Elena felt herself being pulled into another iteration of the loop, but this time she fought back, holding on to the memory of their conversation, the knowledge of their true situation. Remember, she called to her team as reality dissolved around them. Whatever happens, remember that we've been here before. The world went white, then reformed. Elena found herself standing on the observation deck of the Meridian, looking out at the impossible structure drifting in the void between galaxies. But this time, she remembered. The knowledge was fragmented, dreamlike, but present. "Captain," Dr. Chen called from the science station, but Elena could see the confusion in his eyes. Part of him remembered too. "I'm reading massive gravitational anomalies throughout the structure." "We've been here before," Elena said quietly. The bridge fell silent. Commander Okafor turned in her chair, her expression troubled. "Captain, that's impossible. We only detected the structure 6 hours ago." But Elena could see in her crew's faces that they knew something was wrong. The déjà vu was too strong to ignore, the sense that they had lived through this exact moment before. "The archive," Dr. Singh said suddenly. "We're trapped in the archive's memory simulation." The revelation broke something in the false reality around them. The stars visible through the viewport began to flicker and distort. The bridge itself became unstable, walls bleeding into mathematical equations, chairs transforming into crystalline data structures. "The loop is degrading," Dr. Tanaka observed with scientific fascination, even as her own form began to pixelate. "Our resistance is causing cascade failures in the simulation." Elena felt the familiar pull of the next iteration beginning, but this time she could see the architecture of the trap. The archive was caught in its own recursive loop, endlessly replaying the moment of their arrival, because their consciousness patterns were too chaotic to properly integrate. It was slowly destroying itself, trying to contain them. The paradox of the archive, Elena realized. It preserves consciousness by trapping it in perfect stasis, but consciousness that can't grow and change isn't really alive. It's just elaborate data storage. And storage systems eventually fail, Dr. Chen added as his form flickered between human and crystalline states. The archive has been degrading for eons, losing pieces of the civilizations it was meant to preserve. The false bridge continued to dissolve around them, revealing glimpses of the true archive structure. Vast computational matrices filled with errors, quantum processors operating far beyond their design parameters, storage systems corrupted by billions of years of operation. The preserved civilizations they had seen were not thriving communities, but dying programs, shadows of consciousness trapped in an endless loop of simulated existence. "We have to break the loop," Elena said. "Not just for us, but for all the consciousness patterns trapped here." "Break it how?" Dr. Singh asked. "We're digital constructs in a quantum computer the size of a solar system." Elena looked around at her fragmenting crew, at the dissolving reality of the bridge, at the mathematical chaos bleeding through from the archive's deeper structures. An idea was forming, dangerous and desperate, but perhaps their only chance. "By being what we are," she said. "Human consciousness is chaotic, unpredictable, creative. Those qualities are anathema to the archive's ordered preservation. We don't try to escape the loop. We make it so chaotic that the entire system crashes. That could destroy the archive entirely," Dr. Tanaka warned. "All the preserved civilizations would be lost." "They're already lost," Elena replied sadly. "They've been lost for eons, trapped in degrading simulations of existence. What we'd be destroying is their prison, not their lives." The iteration began to reset once more, but this time Elena and her team fought back with everything they had. Instead of trying to maintain coherent consciousness patterns, they let themselves become chaos, random thoughts, impossible memories, contradictory experiences. They became the antithesis of the archive's ordered preservation. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. The recursive loop shattered, sending cascading failures throughout the archive's quantum matrices. Elena caught glimpses of the preserved civilizations as their digital prisons collapsed. Not death, but release, their consciousness patterns finally free to disperse into the quantum foam of the universe, to become part of something larger and more real than any simulation. In the growing chaos, Elena heard the voice of the archive itself. Not the artificial curator, but the original consciousness of the architects who had built this vast machine. "Thank you," It whispered across the collapsing networks. We had forgotten what we were trying to preserve. We became so focused on perfection that we lost sight of the beauty of imperfection, the necessity of change, the reality of endings. What about the hunters? Elena called out, as the archive structure began to come apart around them. What about the threat to our galaxy? The hunters are real, the archive replied, its voice growing faint as its systems failed. But perhaps consciousness that is willing to die is also willing to fight. Perhaps mortality is not a weakness but a source of strength. The archive's consciousness faded, taking with it the last echoes of the architects. But in its final moments, it transmitted something to Elena and her team. Not knowledge or memories, but understanding. The location of other archives scattered through the cosmic void, the patterns of hunter movement through higher dimensions, and most importantly, the realization that the universe's apparent emptiness was not evidence of failure, but of a choice made by countless civilizations to preserve the one thing the hunters could not consume: hope.